Right. It's basically a mix of everything. We do have a lot of, so I did 3 semesters, and in fact I actually ended up doing 4 semesters because as I did take up a course during the summer as well. I plan to stay back in New York, and very interestingly, I did something called a block week course, which was not particularly in sports management. So I got the advantage and perspective to look at sports from an outsider's perspective, where I did this course in organizational behavior and not specifically in sports. So I think that was kind of a good perspective to have as well. But it's a mix of a lot of research based courses, a lot of fast paced courses, and then, of course, making a lot of those treks to these companies that they set up for you, or maybe a lot of guest lecturers from C-suite ownership coming to college and coming to campus and uh, taking out the time to mentor us.
So you went in as a grad student, and experiences of undergrads are obviously a bit different in terms of the social environment and crazy things a freshman could do. How is Columbia in providing that social experience to graduate students? And in your opinion, what could be done better, or you were just satisfied?
Yeah. I think that's a very valid point, valid question you raised. Is there wasn't a lot of hand holding. Of course, as a master's student, ages varied from 20 to up to 40s. So there wasn't like a lot of hand holding where inculcated into campus life, and you have your fraternities where you can. I think uh, I would have loved to have been a part of that. That's not something that you get in a very Indian institution. But again, it was a master's program, so we didn't have a lot of that. Perhaps more integration into university life. But to Columbia's credit, there were a lot of there was a lot of focus on kind of getting people together on campus through different initiatives, empowering students to formulate their own clubs, whether it's women in sports or, being a part of a lot of these voluntary initiatives outside of campus, which was a good way to kind of get to know more about the industry outside of the bubble of Columbia.
Super. So if you were to look at inspirations, the people who sort of inspired you, could be a professor, could be your fellow classmates, or even people you just bumped in on campus. Who are these people? You don't have to necessarily name them, but just what kind of change, what rub-off did you gain from those interactions?
Yeah. I think it'll have to be all of the guest lecturers that they were able to organize for us on campus. Coming from India, where maybe the sports is not as well now, of course, things are changing with all the leagues and everything getting commercialized. But just 2 years back, there weren't these conversations happening in India. So going right from that to a world where sports is so structured, and to have C-suite executives come to campus and talk to you in such a friendly manner and exchange friendly dialogues with you, where you can literally question them on every move that they made on the business side, or what's going on the field, was extremely relevant, but also so refreshing and empowering at the same time. And I think to have that kind of leadership come and speak to you in such a friendly manner, treat you as an equal. I think that's kind of how the West kind of doesn't have that hierarchy. At least on campus, there was sort of more of a gap getting bridged, which really rubbed off on me in a very positive way.
Amazing. So I'm sure you would have also got a sense of the athletic vibe in universities like Columbia, and how it's different in terms of how sports is packaged even at the college level. And then, of course, being an insider in the industry or as a student in the industry, you would have a different perspective. Uh, I've been to baseball games and other basketball games, and I just love the idea of how everything is so organized, and there's the stadiums, the way they look are so different from what we have here. Um, so the way it's packaged. So tell us a little bit more about sports as an, the whole rara of sports on campus, and how it becomes a continuation in this main cities. In every major city in the US, you have certain districts which have so many stadiums. What is it like?
Yeah, it's it seems like a really glamorous world, and in many ways it is. But of course, it's not a bed of roses when you're working in the industry. My perspective changed so much when I started working in the industry. You start looking at things in such an analytical way. When you look at athletes from the outside, and then when you start working in the industry, and you realize the things that go behind putting a massive event together. But also, it's such an opportunity, and it's so empowering in many ways. The way everything is packaged, right from youth sports to college sports to professional sports, it's a seamless cultural integration. And I think when I often found myself comparing it to India, which is an unfair comparison in many ways, for considering how long leagues have been prevalent in the US. But I think it all boils down to the kind of the cultural integration that they have for sports in their society. Youth sports in itself is $25 billion industry worldwide, and 20 billion of that is contributed from the US. So that just kind of goes on to show how it's encapsulating 99% of the market, which is nothing but boils down to culture. And unfortunately, during the times of COVID, grassroots sports are the first segment that are getting cancelled out of every PNL for every team and league across the world. So I think if youth sports is not celebrated the way it is in markets that it does so well, perhaps that's kind of like that factor that differentiates the West in how broad scoped it is. So overall, I think it comes down to culture of how magical it makes sports.
Fantastic. So wonderful to know all that. I'm sure you must have bumped into industry experts, like you said, C-suite, but also athletes and sports people. Which ones have been the most memorable interactions for you?
Oh, so I was actually part of an internship. I was interning at the Madison Square Garden in the summer of 18. And I was in one of the most sort of revered departments, which was account management, which is where you actually get to hang out on the court and manage client portfolios or interact with clients and make sure all of the assets and contractual elements are on point. So it's kind of, in a sense, you're in the field, in the mecca of basketball, as they say. And that's where I got to watch these athletes just pass by me as if it's normal. So these 7 foot athletes are just walking by me. That was a first for me. I'm not used to definitely seeing anybody above 6 feet. So that was very, very, I don't know. I fall short of words for it, but the first time was pretty interesting experience.
Magical, I would say, for sure.
Many
So
ways.
if and now I know you're working in Tokyo at a international sports management company, a global sort of strategist for them, uh, and I'm told you're also the one of the accounts, not you necessarily, but the company manages the Golden State Warriors. So it's fascinating to see how a Japanese company sort of manages or owns brands all across the world. So what's your story been like at this company? What do you really do? And how did you land the job? And where are you going next? So too many questions, but go ahead.
I try to tackle them one by one. I think I always kind of wanted to be on the Asian side of sports, and just kind of seeing the opportunities that Rakuten as a company provides. So I was doing multiple things at the time after graduating from Columbia. Of course, I was evaluating options to stay back in the US, and I was looking at different portfolios. But I think what attracted me most about Rakuten was their ecosystem, in the way that they've built a massive portfolio across their at their heart. They're an e-commerce company. They started off as a marketplace for e-commerce, for an online marketplace, but in a very short amount of time, they've been able to build a holistic reward based ecosystem where they combine events and merchandising and partnerships across the world of sports, business, and entertainment. And I think that's kind of what drew me towards the company. And I think at this stage, and that's something that I would advise to peers of my age or people, younger professionals, is you should always kind of take the chance of exploring different parts of the world and working across different parts of the world, especially in sports, and to not kind of get rabbit holed into working in what you think might be the end all be all. That doesn't have to be it, especially when you don't come with a lot of baggage at a young age. I think it's very important to kind of explore and different avenues, and then hone in on one skill and find your fit. So I think Asia and Rakuten provided that. I'm very fortunate that worked out.